All right. Hello, people in YouTube land and Cringe Crew Gaming community. I am Traductus, and I'm here with Ted Green Eagles.
Sure.
Follow us on Twitch. And this is the Cringe Crew Gaming James Bond podcast. And today we're going over the fourth film, Thunderball. And I have to say, with me doing I guess I should say, even though it's episode 4, new people probably might come in. The reason why we're doing this, Ted over here isn't necessarily a James Bond fan. He's seen a couple, but hasn't gone through, the entire series like me being a Bond fan, and I kind of wanted to do a podcast to have also the opinion of someone that's not particularly a fan and possibly watching these for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I'm also glad that we decided to do this because I'm actually kind of glad that I rewatched this, because before I kind of every time I watch this film, usually I like it less and less and less. This is different. This was actually different. And I don't know if it's because I haven't seen it in a while, why I'm a little bit less critical on it, or not, or who knows? Maybe I was just in the right mood to watch that movie. But anyway, enough for the introduction. We're gonna go over background, casting, people that were there making the film, and also background on the film. Now originally this was supposed to be the first James Bond film. Ian Fleming was thinking back in 1958 of putting Bond to the silver screen. His friend Ivar Bryce got him a hold of a writer and director by the name of Kevin McClory, and they tried working on a script for a James Bond film. Then things didn't really go that well. They brought in a more experienced film writer by the name of Jack Whittingham. They finished the script. They pitched it to MCA. MCA said no, and therefore it got shelved, and Ian Fleming decided to turn it into a novel, which in 1961 resulted in Fleming getting sued for copyright infringement. And after a couple lawsuits later, McClory and Fleming were able to settle out of court, with Fleming retaining the rights to the novel and for the film rights to the plot and characters and other things. McClory was able to get that. With that being said, with Broccoli and Saltzman, the two producers of the James Bond films that have Ian Productions, or had at that time, they obviously, wanted to have Thunderball be the movie for a long time because, hey, that was supposed to be the first Bond film. But due to the legal troubles, they were unable to do Thunderball. And now they can, and they were also afraid of McClory making his own Thunderball film, which was well warranted because McClory did eventually make his own Thunderball film in the 80s. But this time they actually got a hold of Kevin McClory, and they cut a deal with him that they would give him credit for sole producer. They also give Jack Whittingham writing credits because he was also a part of the lawsuit and sued Fleming for copyright infringement. And Fleming did later on said that he borrowed quite a bit from Thunderball, but insisted that the characters and the organization Spectre were his idea, which there is some credit to that because he has used like the word Spectre to mean certain things in the Bond films in the not Bond films, but Bond novels in the past. Um, like the lecture machine and From Russia with Love in the book is actually called the Spectre machine. So there is maybe some credit to that, but McClory claims it all. And that's totally not going to cause problems for Broccoli and Saltzman in the future after Thunderball. Totally not. Totally not. Spoiler alert, it does. But not this time around. So McClory gets sole producer credit with Broccoli and Saltzman getting executive producer. And they also part of the deal, Kevin McClory is not able to make a Thunderball film for at least 10 years. So that way there isn't really two competing Bond films, probably because they didn't Saltzman and Broccoli weren't expecting to be making these like films for as long as they did. But or they just thought McClory would just like give up on trying to make like a Thunderball film, but like he never did. So with that, we'll go with the crew here. Terrence Young is back, the guy that directed Dr. No and From Russia with Love. They were gonna have Guy Hamilton back, but he was like so burned out from Goldfinger that he's just like, yeah, like no, maybe later, but for now I need a rest.
Reasonable enough.
So Terrence Young comes back directing his final Bond film, and there is obvious differences from and also similarities from Thunderball, from Goldfinger. One I would say is the cinematography, but it's the same cinematographer, so it seems like the only difference for the most part is script. And although Richard Maybaum did do some tweaks with the script writing, and the director. As for casting, we have Miss France Claudine Auger as the Bond lady Domino, who is dubbed by Nikki Vanderzeel, who also dubbed Ursula Andress in Dr. No.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's cool that they actually brought someone back. Now, the funny thing is, it's kind of a similar situation with Ursula Andress. Like, Claudine Auger, she spoke perfect English. She just had a heavy French accent. But what I don't understand why they dubbed her is that they made the character French.
Yeah, the dub still had an accent. It was quite bizarre.
But what's funny is that one of the people that they actually were considering for the role was Faye Dunaway of Bonnie and Clyde fame. She's also plays the hell, Joan Crawford in the movie Mommy Dearest.
Can't see without his glasses.
Not that one.
What? All right.
That's my girl.
No, that maybe. Okay, maybe I'm confusing my shit. It's fine.
No, Mommy Dearest is her going, no wire hangers! Well, she's like,
Okay. Alright.
But she plays Bonnie and Clyde. But, and she's also in a couple other films. She was like a big actress around that time, but they decided to give it to Miss France. Also, there is a villain Bond woman, Fiona Volpe, played by, it's either Luciana Paluzzi or Luciana Paluzzi. My Italian's not that great,
Yeah.
So...
You and me both.
She is not dubbed, although I do think like she had to redub some scenes, because some of her dialogue seems a little off. But, she was supposed to. She actually originally auditioned for Domino, didn't get the role. So, but they liked her audition so much they gave her the other role, and she's just like, "This is better."
Yeah.
Although she said the role gave her a double-edged sword, like it really helped her career, but at the same time, like directors and movie producers didn't really take her as serious as they should, just because she was in a Bond film.
Fair enough.
So that kind of reminds me of like Megan Fox, because like Megan Fox is actually not a bad actress. Like Jennifer's Body, she's really good in, but like since she's in the Transformers films, and the different ways that she keeps getting typecasted, you would never think it. Of course, Felix Leiter the actor gets changed with like Rick Von Nutter, who literally got the role because he had dinner with Cubby Broccoli and his wife.
Hey, it works out for him.
Cubby Broccoli's just like, I want you for Felix Leiter.
Yeah, it worked out.
And of course, for the Bond villain, Emilio Largo, Adolfo Celli, who is also dubbed, which still shocks me every time. They did a really good job, dubbing him. And he gets cast because he was in a World War II film with Frank Sinatra, and he was the villain in that film. And they're just like, hey, he's good at playing a Nazi, so we'll just, put an eye patch on him, and then he's now a Bond villain. I mean, that's really what I got from that. And that's basically kind of the background. I will, besides, like, I guess since we talked about budget, pretty much a bigger budget than the last one, and this one made more money. Oh, here we go. Budget of $9 million, and at the box office, $141.2 million.
Good lord.
And would be the largest grossing Bond film until Live and Let Die. But adjusted for inflation, I think it was the most profitable Bond film until I think either Moonraker or Skyfall. At the very least, Skyfall, because even adjusted for inflation, Skyfall has made the most money out of any Bond movie.
Crazy turnaround on investment, man. Good lord.
Yeah. Yeah. And they threw everything but the kitchen sink in this movie. But anyway, I guess it's time for likes and dislikes. Not sure what we should go. See, this one's going to be difficult for me because it's just like I don't know how your perspective is. I know mine's going to have more likes than dislikes, which is odd because I normally nitpick the fuck out of this film. Well, but this case, I didn't.
Yeah. I can take over first if you'd like.
Yeah, because here's the weird thing here. I don't know what Ted's gonna think. This is like From Russia with Love. It's like, what does he think?
So I had a lot of complaints about how Goldfinger was produced as a movie, and I thought a lot of that turned around with Thunderball. Like, the quality of filming was really good. Action scenes were really good. You mentioned the cinematography that felt a whole lot better. Like, it felt like a genuine production now. It wasn't just, let's film these guys on stage somewhere. It was pretty terrific.
It was beautiful. Some of the set design stuff, that even though it was simple, there's like some like the shark pull, like some of the stuff in that, also like the sets for like the caves. Cat Adam did a decent job. Like, it wasn't really as over the top as Goldfinger was with like set design, but there's still some pretty cool things.
Yeah.
In that, also we haven't talked about him, but Maurice Binder, who does the title credits, I think this so far is definitely his best title credits. Because like the opening titles are really freaking beautiful. Like,
yeah, the like the quality of actual movie production was so much better in this one than it's been. As much as I liked From Russia with Love, and I thought that was notably better than the others in the series to this point, this one was definitely even better. I thought action was filmed like thoughtfully, which was pretty cool, especially given the times. You know, it wasn't that much later than the first three movies we watched, but the places they put the cameras, the way that action was scripted, for lack of a better word, like the way the action progressed was more thoughtful and intentional for an audience. I thought that dialogue was also like notably better. It felt like every character had personality, which I think has lapsed a little bit to some of the deeper characters in the previous movies.
Right.
With that, I think my major like complaints about this movie are just its watchability. Notably, that last action scene, like, again, it's cool. If they had cut it into a 5 or 10 minute chunk, it would have been fantastic, but it was 45 minutes of nonstop underwater action with no dialogue, no plot development. Just like sitting through that became difficult. After about the minute mark of 20 minutes, I was just like, this kind of blows. And then it just kept going. Like, it just also, sound was notably horrible in this movie. There were a lot of really bad dubs. I mentioned out loud multiple times that the Foley artist needs to be like drawn and quartered because he was so bad at his job.
Well, what's funny is that you're like, "Wow, this is really great," and then the underwater fight scene came, and like you're just like, "I take everything I said back."
You know, a lot of like the weird sounds or the not fitting, like the sound was more balanced, and again, like that was the quality of filming that I thought was really good. But like the Foley artist specifically, and whoever was in charge of dubbing over the characters, that did a very poor job.
Yeah, especially with Domino, because you could definitely tell with her.
I noticed it several times that it was like notably off. You know, if you miss a syllable or two, it's not usually the end of the world.
Right.
But there were several times where it was like a word or two off. That it was not good.
To me, I wonder if like they spent all the time with Largo, and then it's just like when they got to like Domino and probably like other people that are dubbed, they're just like, fuck it. It's like I'm sick of doing this. Yeah. Good enough.
I suppose that's possible. Yeah, but the sound effects at the end became bad. Like it's almost like they got bored of making their own action scene towards the end.
Yeah.
The biggest takeaway that I have from this one, not sure whether it's a positive or a negative, more so just an observation. But I thought that this one felt as though you'd need Bond knowledge more than the other ones. I mentioned it a little bit in Dr. No that you kind of needed to know the premise to get into that movie. Like, you needed to know what Bond was all about, and then Bond didn't fit the character that I know as a casual, Bond observer. But this one definitely felt like it had references to previous movies. It was developing stories for future movies. Like, this definitely felt like part of a sequence rather than its own standalone movie. More so than the other.
Which everybody basically knows Bond movies as standalones. Unless you got into it with like the Daniel Craig ones, because those are all linked. And I think the reason why they kind of had it linked, because like a lot of people like Daniel Craig reminds them of Sean Connery, and the Connery films are kind of linked, with the exception of Goldfinger, which is like the one-off.
Yeah. I mean, there were loose ties that like it could answer a couple of questions for you. Like, I don't remember whether it was Goldfinger or Russia with Love, but they mentioned Spectre, and you just kind of assume they're the bad guys without any previous knowledge. And this one, it definitely feels like it builds more on the previous ones. And I mentioned it at the end that it leaves room to not create a sequel necessarily, but to follow up some storylines.
Yeah. Well, it also helps that Thunderball was like the first, like the books was the first of a trilogy.
Okay.
Of like, yeah.
That makes more sense then.
Because the books only have there's only 3 books that actually have Spectre, and they go accordingly from they go Thunderball, Honor Majesty's Secret Service, and then You Only Live Twice. However, in the movies, Spectre is in a lot of them because the Broccolis didn't want to have the Russians be the villains, so they just had an evil organization.
That makes sense.
Spectre, just to throw it in there. And unfortunately, the quote unquote Blofeld trilogy, who is, the head of Spectre, is shot out of order.
Hmm.
So yeah, because You Only Live Twice is the next one, as opposed to On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure we'll see more of it as we get into the next couple, just because of the way that the books develop and where this movie left off. But that was a notable takeaway for me. That was what I had the most feeling of. Was like, I'm happy we watched the first three first, like, or that we're doing them in this order at least, instead of just, hey, let's throw a dartboard or throw a dart at a dartboard and pick the movie from there. Like, it was definitely helpful to have gotten the background.
I guess we'll go with me. It's definitely beautifully shot. I wonder if the reason why it's so beautifully done is because it was shot in widescreen, and that's why. Because before they had Bill Simmons, since it was like an afterthought of having the gun barrel. This one is Sean Connery doing the gun barrel because they had to reshoot it because they had to have the right aspect ratio since they shot in widescreen.
Right.
So I wonder if like better quality of film, because it's the same cinematographer Ted Moore through each one. The only difference there's probably a bunch of other differences, but it seems like the only major difference is Terrence Young. And with Terrence Young coming off of From Russia with Love, I wonder if like he also saw Goldfinger and tried combining the two. Because it seems like it tries to do that, but ends up being its own thing.
Yeah, a little bit. I wondered some about budget too. That like a higher budget could mean more camera angles or more fluid motion, that kind of thing. Like they definitely had thoughtfulness of sets, but Goldfinger's issue with cinematography a lot of the time was stationary cameras pointing at the same place. And this one definitely felt more fluid and like you were immersed rather than they just broke down the fourth wall in front of a live studio audience.
I will say that one thing I was like, damn it, I lost my train of thought. Yeah. I'd say one thing that I'm glad that they brought back from Russia with Love is that a lot of the characters had arcs. Like Domino has an arc. Which I would say like isn't really as good as in From Russia with Love, but like it is different.
Rip. Yeah, I mentioned that a little bit, that I it felt like in previous movies they kind of gave the major roles like some thought, some arc, some development, like personality, and now even smaller characters had personality too. Even if those arcs weren't big, they definitely put thought into every person in the movie, not just the main 3 or 4.
And Felix is better in this. Like I personally like Jack Lord from Dr. No better. Just because like he was like less of a sidekick. While in this one he's still kind of a sidekick, but he's not like hero worshipping him like like the other guy was in Goldfinger.
Yeah, I agree.
So not a bad job on that guy's part. I know a lot of people usually give Largo shit for being a boring villain, but like he wasn't necessarily boring. Like, to be honest, I think he's a better villain than Dr. No is.
I agree.
Like he's subtle, but at the same time, like I don't think like a Goldfinger like villain would have really worked for this movie.
Yeah, I get why people would say that he's boring. Like it wasn't big and brash like Goldfinger was, but at the end of the day, I think that he played his part well. He filled the role he needed to, and there was development more of the organization than himself.
Yeah, I will say I'm glad they put an eye patch on him because that made him a lot more menacing. Which reminds me of like another Bond villain that's basically kind of like Largo in like the Daniel Craig series, but like he was like, hey, the actor's like, hey, can I have like a scar or an eye patch or something? They're like, no, just be yourself. And and needless to say, he's considered one of the worst and most boring Bond villains. And it's like, wow, it's like the eye patch really did do a lot for Largo. Um, I uh, also like the fact, I guess to go more in detail with like Domino, uh, the thing I kind of like is especially like at the end, um, her arc, like, yes, she sleeps with Bond, but not at the end. She's not like enthralled with Bond and like making out with him at the end. She just happens to be in a raft with him, and then he like attaches
Yeah.
him and her to like a airplane and they fly away. But like even then, she kind of has like the thought because like before she's like, well, I'm basically and this isn't saying like this is a feminist film. There's still the typical Bond sexism, which is definitely kind of like a dislike.
It was less overt in driving in this one though. Like this one
Yeah,
was much easier to chalk up to. Well, this was the '60s. Like still not good, but not nearly as
right.
gross and overt as it was in
Yeah,
Goldfinger.
and it's only like a couple scenes at the beginning. After that, you kind of forget about it.
Yeah, they were relatively short, and they got out of the way early. Like after that, it just turned into a Bond film.
But anyway, like Domino, she's like in a abusive relationship with Largo, and then she sees Bond. It's like, oh sweet, someone to get me out of there. And then he sleeps with her, and then she finds it. She goes, oh, so you sleep with me to get information about Largo, and is bummed out. And she goes, all right, I'll help you just because I want to fucking kill Largo.
Yeah,
And at the end, she could probably like, all right, I'm stuck with you. As soon as we get back, she could have all of a sudden just go, all right, now go fuck yourself. I'm going on my way. Like she could very well do
yeah,
that. It's like left up to like interpretation whether she's like smitten with him or
yeah,
not. She's more like after like realized that Bond used, she's more concerned about Largo being dead. And I do love the fact that spoiler alert, she does kill Largo.
yeah.
Although I wish that you kind of got like their faces looking at each other, like because you only see like the back of like Largo. So you don't really see the stare down between them two. Another thing that I like, Fiona Volpe as the bad Bond villain. She's great, and I argue kind of steals the movie. I also like the different Bond quips, especially like her death, like when she gets shot in the back by her own guys. He just like Bond sets her down and tells the people, it's like, yeah, can she just you know, sit here? She's quite dead.
Yeah.
And then you just see like him just sweating.
Yeah.
And what's even better is that the her henchmen that have the place surrounded see that they accidentally kill her. Like, oh shit, we fucked up. Should we stop on? No. We're done with this. No. We are too inept to be doing this job. And probably also this. I think what also improves is the scene between Bond and Q. Like there was a little bit bantering and Goldfinger, with like Bond, seeing like the ejector seat. He's like, "Oh, you must be joking." And then Q goes, "Well, I never joke about my work."
Yeah.
In this, there's a lot more like what people are used to, as in like Bond's fucking around and Q's like, "Hey, can you like stop fucking around and listen to this? Because like if you don't listen to this, you're gonna die in the field." um, I think this one's probably like one of my favorite ones. I also like the pill that's like a tracker, which is oddly shaped like a suppository. And Bond's like, "What do I do with this?" And then I wonder if this was actually supposed to be in the movie or not. That pause, because I have a feeling like Desmond Llewellyn was just having so much fun and he was about ready to say, "Obviously, you shove it up your
Yeah.
ass." But he's like, "Obviously, you swallow it."
Yeah. The dialogue was well crafted. It was, like I said, it was thoughtful for everybody. I was very much a fan.
And for dislikes with me, the fight scene at the water, underwater is too long. Um, there's so many characters in this movie too that some of them are a little bit underdeveloped. Like Paula's there for a little bit. She's kind of developed, but like not a lot. You know, she's there, and then she's not there. The henchman Vargas. It's like, oh, what's he do? He watches Domino, and he has sunglasses because the actor has like weird eyes. And there's like nothing really, you know, to him. And then there's like another henchman that's also like named, and like you don't really see him after. I mean, you do, but you're like, okay, did he like die underwater then? Because you don't really. There's no payoff with him being introduced. You know, at least Vargas, you get like the pun. Oh, he got the point.
Right.
But I think like when I was kind of watching this, I was thinking, you know, there could be like less time with the fight scene, and then added to probably more character development. Also, this movie sort of drags, kinda. I mean, it's only like 2 hours and like 2 hours 5 minutes, 2 hours 15 minutes long. Obviously, you know, long for back then, but like nowadays, you know, Peter Jackson makes 3 hour long movies.
Yeah.
But it still feels like it kind of drags a little bit. It's not bad, but
I think most of that comes from the fight scene.
Yeah.
Like it some of it feels kind of drawn out, but like you really get that impression at the end in the fight scene underwater. That definitely makes the movie feel twice as long as it is.
Yeah, to me, I think this definitely feels more like a Bond film than all the other ones. Although I really love From Russia with Love. I think that tells a better story. But as like, I know like a lot of critics say like Goldfinger's where they perfected the formula. I think Goldfinger's where they figured out the formula that they wanted to go to. I think in this film they actually perfected of what, you know, what a Bond film should be. But I would say like another thing with all the characters and everything, and nobody kind of getting like that much. Some of the smaller characters not really getting that much character development. I know that they'll never do it, but this would be awesome if they turn this into like a TV series. Like Thunderball itself could, like as a entire TV season would work.
Yeah, I agree. The plot line's long enough that if you really like stretched it out, you know, developed characters and that sort of thing, I think it would be manageable, or at least like a mini series.
Yeah, and the plot's all right. I do have like an issue with it. That is, they kind of give you the villain's plan at the beginning, which could add tension. It's like, hey, they only have so much time to figure out what's going on. But there are at times where you forget that that they're on a timed, you know, length.
Yeah, they develop the tension and never build on it.
Yeah. It's not like Orson Welles' Touch of Evil, where at the beginning where a guy, you know, hides a bomb in a car, and then the car goes off, and then you see the car through the opening credits go through like a crowd of people, and you're just like, you're just like, what? So you're kind of like, you know, biting your nails, like, when's it gonna blow up? Because with the director's cut, the film score actually sounds like a clock ticking and everything. So like you're like, oh shit, and then it eventually does blow up, but luckily not with the crowd around it. But that really kind of builds like tension. I think if they would have like, I don't want to say film it in real time, but like they needed to kind of do something to really like keep the tension going, that they had to find like these nuclear bombs before you know, they blow up. Also another thing that kind of irks me a little bit that would have actually been better with like a series is the doctor that switches sides. Like it's implied that he's kind of like coaxed into like working with Largo, because like he kind of bitches. It's like, you know, I could have been doing something else, and Largo's like, yeah, but look at all the money that we're gonna extort. So he's actually implying it's like they're not gonna not give us the money. Which, right. Spoiler alert, that's the most unrealistic thing ever. We don't. Miami would have been blown up. They would have been evacuated, and Miami would have blown up in real life. But this is the 60s. They were very, very optimistic that world governments would actually give terrorists money. But and he switches sides when Largo's like torturing Domino, because at that point he's just like, he's just like, I don't want any part of this. And which it's there, it's subtle, but like you could have forgot about it. It's just like, well, why is he helping already?
Yeah.
And I think like, a series or maybe a little bit more character development instead of like underwater fight scene that goes on forever would have fixed that. With that, you got anything to say overall? To me, I really, really, this is the first time I've actually watched this film and liked it better than the last time I watched it.
Yeah.
I was not nearly as nitpicky as I...
Yeah, I mean, we've gone kind of with a ranking and, holding things in thresholds. I'd put this one second so far. It's certainly behind From Russia with Love, but it does feel significantly better, like they're taking steps in the right direction. They recognized where Goldfinger was not as good, and the production of the film itself went up too. That definitely made the parts I disliked more manageable.
Yeah.
I was a fan.
Yeah, I agree. I do have... This used to be my favorite Bond film when I was a kid, just because I thought all the stunts and everything were awesome. Now, I will say they still kind of are, although there are a few things that are dated, like the rear projection, and also the speeding up of the boat, which I used to remember being really bad, but it wasn't nearly as bad as... Because I thought it was like, oh yeah, because I thought them fighting was also sped up, but it wasn't. It was just like the boat with like the rear projection, and I thought they kept recycling the same like footage for the rear projection, but it didn't look like they did, or I just didn't notice then because I was just like, whoa, this fight's actually better than I thought it was. But yeah, I'm actually kind of shocked that we have it in the same spot.
So far, anyway.
Yeah, I literally thought that, and the funny thing is because you don't like Goldfinger, and it's like, I like Goldfinger, but it's still, the ranking's still the same.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, this is definitely a better film than Goldfinger. They took the things that were, like, good about Goldfinger and kept them, and, also took, certain aspects from Russia with Love, especially the spy versus spy aspect.
Yeah.
It's just an overall great film. This is definitely the second best film that we saw so far.
I agree. Small sample size, but so far that feels pretty definitive.
I wonder where we're gonna... Now I'm kind of wondering where we're gonna differ.
Yeah.
We'll see with the next one, You Only Live Twice, which we finally get to see what Blofeld looks like.
Perfect. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Hint on who he is. He is a famous British actor that is known for being in a horror franchise. And no, it is not Christopher Lee.
Yeah. All right.
No, I am not saying no, it's not Christopher Lee because it's Christopher Lee. I'm being serious. It's not Christopher Lee.
I believe you, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We don't have anything else.
I told Haley who it was, so
Okay.
she knows, and I told her not to tell you because I want to know if you fucking recognize him or not.
Yeah, I've been pretty bad at recognizing so far, even when I should know, but I guess we'll find out.
Is it Sean Connery?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he knew who Sean Connery was.
Yeah, I think if we don't have anything else, you good to wrap up?
Yeah, good to wrap up. See you in the next episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for Critch Crew Gaming. Check out the other things that Critch Crew Gaming has. Follow us on Twitch when we stream.
And hop in the Discord to watch future movies or keep up with anything else that's going on, streams or otherwise.
Yes, because we're doing this once a week. There's 20-something Bond films. We're even doing the unofficial ones. We're going to be doing this for a while.
All right.
Who knows? They might come out with a new one while we're doing it.
Man, it's starting to feel that way, but all right.
Well, especially since they're talking about like casting. It's like, oh my god, like are they really gonna go with Idris Elba? Which would be cool.
I think he'd be decent at it, but
Oh no, like Bond fans want him or Henry Cavill or Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy would be somewhat of a letdown. Henry Cavill would be okay, I think, but of the
Henry
three,
Cavill was going to be Bond, but lost it out to Daniel Craig.
I still think Idris Elba feels like he'd fit the role better, but
Oh yeah, I do too. He looks the most Bond out of them all. My issue with Idris Elba, he's 48. So, like, to me, if he does only like 3 films, I think we'll be good. I mean, fuck, Roger Moore did it at 45 to 58.
well, it doesn't need to be permanent. I mean, how many Bonds have there been? You know, like so. But anyway, like Stan was saying, make sure to catch us up on Discord, Twitch. Keep up. Both of us are on Twitter. Hop in YouTube and see all the things that are going on. But I think that about wraps it up for this week.
Yes, it does.
We'll see you guys next time.